hopefully your week as well. As usual, before we jump into the conversation, I like to give you all some time to let everybody know that Pleasure Pulse is live, and you can also let them know that tonight we're only on via radio, I believe. So if you like to connect on your phone or online, you can find us via ZIZ's website. There's a listen live or a listen radio button that you can click into. So let everybody know that they might not be able to find us on Facebook or on YouTube because we are on radio tonight. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to get yourself sorted and situated, and then we'll come right back and jump into tonight's conversation. So stay tuned. We are back, and you are tuned into Pleasure Pulse on ZSZ Radio. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and I'm so happy that you are joining me for another Tuesday night's conversation, which I am really looking forward to. I feel like I'm always looking forward to the conversation, so I don't know what difference it makes saying that, but I'm so eager, especially considering what's coming up. This weekend is International Women's Day, so I am joined by my guest here from the Department of Gender Affairs. I will ask her to introduce herself before we get into tonight's conversation.
Okay, good night, Roma.
Good night.
Good night, world. My name is Chanel Charles, and I am the acting director for the Department of Gender Affairs. And tonight we are going to talk about our women's achievements over the years, over the year ago when we celebrated, and going forward.
Thank you for that introduction. And of course, this show is about sex education and sexual pleasure. So there's going to be a connection between sexual health, sexual rights, and so on, and women's advancements. So before we get into that part of the conversation, talk to us. You know, the department is responsible for recognizing, really, or spearheading the celebrations around International Women's Day. Talk to us about the day and about some of the history in terms of our participation, the significance of the day and the moment locally.
So the department has been celebrating International Women's Day for many years. When I got into the department first, I met Mrs. Celia Christopher, and I know she has been in gender since since it was named the Women's Affairs, and that was years ago. So I know it's continuous, and it has been many years. International Women's Day is global. Every country, everywhere in the world celebrate International Women's Day, and for me, it's an important not day, but it's an important month for me because I could see, where women has been striving and in so many areas that sometimes we don't even realize that, we have women in those fields. For International Women's Day, the ceremony is always March 8th. We would be celebrating five women, 5 categories, plus we have the induction of our pioneering women. These are women in their first fields. Let me just go back a bit and we talk about the areas that we would be awarding these women in. women in STEAM, women in fashion industry, women in human services, women in creative media, and women in sustainable development. Every year, I could see the amount of nominations piling up, people calling, women getting excited. Oh, I want to nominate this person, I want to nominate that person. And let me say that the nomination process has nothing to do with us, the department. We have a panel of judges, and to make it more fun, usually they are anonymous until the day of the celebration, where we give them a token, for our appreciation. So the names go through a process, and they tally and they send back, and then we see who the true winners are. So I know a lot of people wonder, oh no, what's the process, and how does the process take place? But that's just how the process takes place. And then we have our pioneering women. For this year, we have three. We found three. I'm not going to tell you who they are until the media expose them.
Why you say it like that?
Yes, because I want people to be excited and say, let me see who Gender Affairs released this year for the women in, well, we have one in a chief of staff, a medical chief of staff. We have...
that one sound easy to guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Chief of surgeon, first female chief of surgeon. And we have a woman who is the first political leader of a party. So these are very interesting areas. So I want to just pull your leg a bit. So you get a bit excited and you want to know who these women are, So on the 8th, which is Saturday, I guess SKNIS, Gender Affairs, websites and different media platforms would release these women.
Okay, all of them.
All of
all
them.
8, okay.
All 8. And I know if you are coming, I know you would be excited to be there to see, let me see who these women are. Right? The women know who they are. So, and I don't think they would say until maybe the day, they would say that, I'm the person. But I realize over the years that International Women's Day is getting bigger, because I've seen different departments, different organizations, NGOs, faith-based, they're doing activities around International Women's Day. I want to say even the banks, they, represent by showcasing the colors, because we have 3 colors, green, purple, or white. This year we want to ask the schools to wear the colors for us, and just to show the world that yes, women are progressing, women are accelerating in areas that we did not believe that they would strive in those areas. So March 8th would be Saturday. The event starts at 9 at Sugar Apple. We start with a brunch from 9, and the ceremony actually starts at 10. So we're asking our invitees, to dress nice, I must say, because it's the area or the event is like a garden setting. We want to continue that momentum. So they asked to wear a fascinator, and I believe that, it makes women feel valuable. It makes them feel that they are important, that someone knows me, someone is looking at me. And sometimes we don't really realize that, even the smaller children would say, I want to be like that person. I remember some years back, we had a competition, a poetry competition, and we asked they were high school young ladies, and we asked them to write a poem of a woman in society, a prominent woman in society. And when I read those poems, I realized, wow, I didn't know that we have, young females who want to be a lady independent lady, the Calypsonian.
Yeah.
And there was one female who wrote about Marcella Leiber's mother. And I was shocked. I was quite shocked because I know Anne Liber died long time. I don't even know if she died before I was born, but I know she died. But I was a bit
No,
fascinated.
you are wrong still.
I'm not that old.
Anyway, okay, we're gonna get into it, but you are wrong.
Yeah, so it warmed my heart to see that young women are looking on and want to carry the legacy of someone. So for me, that's great. That's a big year for me. Like we are doing something here in St. Kitts and we are doing something worldwide. Because I know the other countries, they are doing their activities as well.
Okay, so this event that you mentioned is not open to the
No.
public. Okay, just to make sure, you tell people dress nicely and so you mean invitees dress nicely.
Yes.
Can people tune in? Is it going to be streamed? Can people watch online or they
I
have
think that
to?
can be possible
Okay.
because I know that we have Facebook Live and we have a Facebook page. So I think, that can be possible. I could, yes.
Okay,
could
but
make
if
it
not,
possible.
they
It can be
will
possible.
Okay, that
Yes.
sounds like you're gonna make it happen.
I will make it happen.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that everybody can benefit from the magic
Right.
of International Women's Day.
Right, right.
Okay, so International Women's Day is also meant to, highlight some of the challenges, the ongoing challenges that women experience. One of which is gender-based violence. But I want to, turn to you and ask you to talk about some of these major challenges and issues that women are facing in the Federation now. Because I also, when we were coming in, we had a little conversation that we maybe were on different sides.
Yes,
I mean, no, okay, not different sides, because I do agree that women have made lots of strides. And I do agree that there are lots of things that we have access to now that we didn't always have access to. So that is one of the major improvements and so on. We talk about the number of women PSs. We talk about the number of women who are active in politics and things like that. That's one side of it for me, right? And I think something like gender-based violence can sometimes even obscure a lot of those advancements, and also the fact that gender-based violence is so pervasive that it affects even the people who we celebrate for breaking glass ceilings and making those advancements, shows just how much further we still have to go. So yeah, talk to us about some of these major challenges and issues faced by women in the Federation now.
Okay, I know you said while we were on our way, I know we talk about the economic inequalities. I know we have made strides, like you said, but I realize, yes, there are some areas still where, women needs to be pushed forward. I know our industrial estate, we have a lot of women there, a lot of women getting minimum wage pay. I know it's closing down as well, slowly. I hope not altogether. But yes, I agree. We have women, well, let me say, like I discussed before, I've seen big changes when it comes to permanent, in the government sector, women as permanent secretaries. I'm seeing a lot of female principals as well, increasing, the numbers are increasing in terms of women being the leader, being at the top. For me, unpaid work. There are areas where, women, can be recognized more and be considered. Well, for example, I have a child, a baby, and when I leave work and I have to go home, I have to care for him, and I sometimes have to take him to work if I have to. If he's sick, I have to take him to work. And I'm seeing, even at work, I'm seeing a lot of our females, have to care for their children when they are sick or when school is closed. So yes, women still, at the brink of challenges. I know females have to take care of their mothers, their grandparents, and it's evident every day in our everyday life. We are seeing it a lot. But we have made strides, yes, but yes, I know we also have challenges. I believe that in St. Kitts, in terms of women empowerment, women's achievement, I believe I could say maybe we're at a 70%. We're more than half. I don't know if you would disagree.
I, one of the things I really, 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 really tried to get and have struggled to get statistics, information, data. So, I don't treat this as I mean, some of the things are, some of the inferences I'm making based on some observations, but some of it are based on, okay, cases that might come up, examples that we might see. But to say, like, I the only gender assessment I've ever read from St. Kitts was that one in like 2009 or somewhere around there, a couple of years ago. So I really don't. Yeah, it's not for a lack of trying. maybe you can help me out with some of those statistics, and then we can like comprehensively, assess
That
progress
statistics I don't have because I know the country itself, we have a little issue when it comes to disaggregated data.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of a challenge
When
for
it
us.
comes
But
to collecting data,
I know
for disaggregation.
that you see everyday life
Yeah.
women and the progresses I'm sure you have seen. I forget to mention one area, women in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, we have been increasing slowly, and I guess every term of a new government, we have more women in politics because I think this is the first time we've ever had more women than before. So I think that's a challenge for us as well. How do we get our women involved in politics? Sometimes when I think about politics, I see it as maybe a man domain because sometimes they can be rough in the things that they say about women wanting to be in a man's world. So yes, I guess we have to do a little bit more governance and democracy when it comes to getting our women out there in politics. I don't think that it's an easy road, for women, because I believe that it's a patriarchal system still, maybe not fully, but still, we have
Fully.
men at the head that makes.
Fully, let's not.
I don't think it's
fully. I think it's not like maybe typical like how other countries are patriarchy.
Correct.
So I'm like it's an odd situation. It's like a patriarchal society where everybody kind of knows women run things. Like it's patriarchal, but it's still very matriarchal because most of us were raised. But it's also like even in I think it was like the last official census, and I can't remember if it was some research that I was doing and collecting data from people where women, even women who were heads of their, single women who did not have a man living in their house, single women, or when I say single, I mean, not legally married, but they could be partnered, women who were taking care of their households and the people in their households and so on, did not have a cohabitating man or a man living there, would still put a man's name as the head of the household because it's like it's so ingrained in you. It's the same way that if a father leaves or he dies or something, then the son becomes the man of the house, even if the son 8 years old, and you have like an older sister who's 20, but it's those kinds of ways. So I feel like some of the challenges that women experience are very invisible. It's not like all of them are not tangible. All of them are not in your face. There are lots of challenges around ideologies, cultural norms, beliefs, just ways that people perceive
Mm-hmm,
women
mm-hmm,
and things that they think women can do, can't do, should not be doing or should be doing. Like what you said about like caregiving,
mm-hmm.
whether that's for children or older persons or siblings, just like the default assumptions. So, yeah, so we don't disagree.
You are
You
correct.
mean I feel like we're on the same page. It's just you might put us at 70%, and I might say, I think we are. Yeah. So, but that's a matter of let's get to a common understanding of what it is we want to measure
Right.
and where we measure up along those things that we choose to measure. So whether we're considering politics, and I mean politics is an interesting thing to consider, because I feel like if, for example, there are 15 seats and once women had zero of those 15, if now women have two of those 15, that counts as progress. Is that impressive progress? No. The rate of progress too is something that
Because it's not a customary thing, it might be an impressive progress.
sure,
Because it was not a norm.
but I'm an idealist, right? Like I am. There is an ideal world that we can get to, and I don't like to skip all of them steps and get to the ideal world as opposed to like this is what we can manage right now. So, and that's where we might be, different. And I think that's okay. You need people who are idealistic, and you need people who are more realistic. So, okay, so those are some of the challenges that you identified. Are there any others that you might want to drop here? You have an audience, there are some things that maybe people haven't even thought about. Are there any that you want to share?
For now, I guess that's just what crossed my mind.
Okay.
I know too when we talk about climate change impact as well. I know we have a lot of single parent mothers who live alone, and whether it is a disaster or even, let me not say COVID, but COVID could be a part of that outside of climate change. We have women, being at home alone, struggling, having issues with food security. I could remember some time back there we had a hurricane, and I was home with my daughter, and my door flew off, and I started to cry because I'm like, how am I going to get this door back on? And I have a neighbor who I only say hi and I go my way. I guess it was just out of courtesy that he, came in the rain and tried to put the door and everything back on. But yes, I know, as you say, challenges that we don't see, the invisible ones that we don't see. Yes, they do exist. And I think it's, for us to not play a blind eye, but to pinpoint and to see, even if we can't fix it right away, who can I collaborate with, who can I partner with to get some of these issues, resolved, maybe not 100%, but, get them somewhere at the time, when they would need change. So I guess that's it for me, dear.
Yeah.
In terms of the little challenges that we might be seeing. I know some countries have issues when it comes to reproductive rights, restrictions like abortion and all of that. What do you think? You think that's a challenge for us?
Based on the law? Yes.
Yes, it's a challenge, yes, based on
Based
the law.
on the law. Based on practice, I'm not entirely sure. From stories I've heard, and sorry, but obviously me gonna call the name, so the police can't go after anybody. But people find ways to get done what they need to get done. But the law, I think, needs to be updated to reflect greater reproductive autonomy.
Correct.
For people. So, and I think I was reading, early tonight I was reading, I ended up looking at all of the country reports not all of them, a couple of them in the last few years, and I think it was like in the 20. I think it was 2022 that I saw in one of the country reports that it became legal for married women to own property. That sound familiar? Unfamiliar? Yeah, I saw it in a recentish country report. So there are also like lots of things on the law. Luckily, some of the things on the law we don't practice.
Right. We don't.
And we could get in trouble for doing what kind of is progressive and is right. So the law needs to be updated to reflect what is
Correct. Because
progressive.
sometimes these laws are
right.
since
all the time
14, whenever.
Since the colonial era.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the interesting thing is the UK, you know, from where we get most of these laws, has updated a lot of these laws. So it's like we still following things that even our former colonial colonizers did.
That is true.
You know, have not. So I think there are lots of things
That
in
is
law
true.
that have to be
That is
updated. For example, law around sexual violence that is so inadequate. So yeah, I think all of these, sometimes it's like, it's not, they're everyday challenges, but they only for some folks come front of mind when something happens. So it's like there's not sustained conversation around
Correct.
a lot of these issues. Anyway, okay, so now this celebration of women's achievements on International Women's Day. Tell me about how you think it relates to ongoing efforts to improve sexual and reproductive health for women. You said that there is a category. Well, the categories that you have for the awardees, the categories you've always had for awardees, no. So
No.
they changed. So you could also, you know, tie in how, like, sustainable development, how did that end up being a category? Because I think it relates very well to this question. And also answer the question back and repeat it.
Okay, so each year we tend to not use the same category because we know there are a lot of areas that we need to explore, maybe that we have not explored. And I realize times are changing and the terms are changing. We have green economy, orange economy, blue economy. So this year, sustainable development might have been one that we used. I don't think that it's new for us because over the years we might have said women in agriculture, which is the same thing as women in sustainable development. So because times are changing, we use the terms that relate to the time. For us, it's about bringing awareness to whatever issues that we might have. I know some NGOs, some organizations tend to focus on different areas, maybe child care, mental health, maternal health. I'm just trying in my mind to remember over the years what we use when it comes to maybe awareness. Most times we go with what the UN propose. So this year, it's accelerate action or accelerate progress. So in the department, when you talk about sustainable development, there's one activity that we want to execute. That is teaching our women farmers. And we have a group called Helen's Daughter. So we want to collaborate with that group this year to do some entrepreneurship training around this month, at least one training. And then I heard that they would be doing a her farmers market or something like that over in Nevis. So yes, sustainable development, but we're also thinking about maybe challenging some of the stigmas that might surround some of the areas also When we choose the areas, look at the stigma around it to see how can we, bring more awareness to it. How can we show the world that yes, women need to be recognized in this area to reduce, some of those stigmas. I talk about, women doing a little bit better um, in St. Kitts, but I know yes, we still have challenges. I know that there's also a lot of work to do in our areas. I don't know if you realize schools, they're now having some gender-based violence issues happening in school, out of school, while walking down the road. So, how do we bring light to the public about? And I'm seeing girls actually fighting. The videos that I've seen are mostly girls. So, how do we bring light to that? How do we bring light to the activity that would say, let's do something that would highlight the violence in school? I could remember about a week ago, I heard about the Prime Minister doing some sessions in the schools and around gender-based violence. How do we curve it? And I was saying, wow, this is might be a perfect time that this is being done. And I realized a couple of days back, there were a representative from the Prime Minister office who called and were asking, if we can go to a school to talk about gender-based violence. So I'm thinking right now it's fitting for the time, for what is happening, it is fitting. So yes, we have to bring light to some of these stigmas. It may not be us, or it could be, an NGO or another department bringing light to it as well. I know we have our policy, we have our gender policy, we have our protocol, and sometimes these are changes, policy changes that needs to happen. I know we are talking about what's happening now, but International Women's Day, we can say yes. We can say yes to striving, yes to progress. Not to focus on our policy at this time because I know it's International Women's Day, but we are moving forward in terms of having we just formed the committee, the focal point committee, and these are interministerial members that forms this committee. And now we look at, how do we mainstream gender in these areas. I think International Women's Day may not be, it's a one day, but I guess for us, it's constant progress. Because for us now in the department, we are looking at how do we get each department to include gender, right? I know some people may talk about a budget because they didn't budget for that. But if we start from the beginning, let's see. Roma laughing.
Sorry, yes, go ahead.
If we start maybe at the beginning of the year, we could say, okay, let's see how we could include when there's budget estimates around the discussion around October, November. Let's see how we can include a gender budget,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're on the right path. And it's just for sustainability. How do we continue? How do we sustain it? How do we make sure that we get the reports that would reflect what is happening when it comes to, mainstreaming gender? So, yes, it's not just International Women's Day, but it's continuous work that needs to be done. And I could highlight it during International Women's
Got
Day.
you, absolutely. Okay, let's take a short break here, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation. Welcome back. You're tuned into Pleasure Pulse, and we are in conversation with Mrs. Chanel Charles, Acting Director of the Department of Gender Affairs. Where is that, sir?
Yes, Department of Gender Affairs.
Yeah, what on One Society, Equality for all. Okay, and we are talking about equality for all because tonight we're talking about women's advancements and gender equality more broadly. And we have been talking about that conversation, you know, in the context of International Women's Day. We've talked about some of the major challenges and issues that women in the Federation face now, as well as some of the achievements and some of the progress and strides that women have made. So let's do some reflection, because we are talking about where we are now. Obviously, that's in comparison to where we are coming from. So, in terms of women's sexual rights, because the department has led, I think, probably all of the gender related policies, legislation, protocol, action plans, and so on have come out of the department, or have been spearheaded, driven by the department. So this conversation around women's sexual rights, talk about how it's evolved some over the last decade and where you think we're going now, especially from where you sit in the department.
There's one thing I want to mention. I realized that our sister island, Nevis, is doing some visits to the school, and they're doing menstrual health. So I know we have Lake Health, that is an NGO that works along with us to bring about some of these, I guess, sexual health, sexual rights, and all of that. I feel like, I guess, more can be done in terms of women's sexual health and rights. I think what Nevis is doing is an awesome thing, bringing light to young girls' sexual health. I think we need, more of that within our schools, because I believe that if these girls know, their rights, life can be so much better for us on a whole. In terms of going forward, I think that there's more work needs to be done in these areas. I think it's a all of us approach. Our department is quite small, but pushing a lot of work as well, that I can take into consideration and see how our department, can partner more when it comes to young women. Because I know we have teen moms, a part of our programs, and we have boys mentorship and all of that. So I believe that I know that every year we do programs around that when it comes to the teen moms and when it comes to the boys, but that's just once a year, right? So I believe that we could do collaboration and do more outreach, and to help, our young people when it comes to our young women, especially when it comes to their sexual health and sexual rights. I'm not sure exactly when it comes to legal rights, exactly what's on the book, but I know a sexual assault is an assault that could merit, legal actions. But I believe that more can be done going forward.
Okay. And this is kind of, well, not kind of, this is also related to International Women's Day, and this is about broader societal participation in terms of how society can better celebrate and acknowledge women's experiences, diverse experiences with sexuality and reproductive health. I think in a lot of people's heads, like there's this idea of like the ideal woman, just like there's this idea of the ideal victim when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like sexual violence cases and things like that. And there's also um that connects to how women's behaviors, women themselves, are perceived. So, women are supposed to be a particular way. Of course, like stereotypes apply to men as well, right? And people of other gender identities. So, we're not talking about women exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying that stereotypes are a thing that only women experience, but we're talking about women right now in this conversation. International Men's Day, we're talking about men.
Oh.
But so yeah, how do you think society can better celebrate and acknowledge those women's diverse experiences with sexuality and with reproductive health and the range of decisions that women want to make?
Roma, to be honest, we need to talk more about our sexual health. Our society, I guess you talk about cultural norms, how we grew up. I guess because we are sometimes a Christian society.
I like how you say
Um,
sometimes.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 'cause from experience growing up in church, we don't really talk about sex unless maybe I don't even think when you're married they do talk about it either. But is we how society perceived it and how we perceived it ourselves. How are we supposed to act? What is it that we are supposed to know? So most times, I guess it's us when it comes to educating ourselves. I feel like we need to do more safe spaces for women, and this radio show, um, I think, is a positive. It's a positive step publicly. Letting people know it's safe. It's okay to talk about sexual rights, sexual preferences, and all of that. Because I believe that people do have rights, okay? And I believe that people should express themselves however they want to express themselves once they're not hurting each other. So, and even when it comes to our teenagers, I think we should not hide the talk at all. I think we should be more vocal, more open, and more honest with our children. Because I could remember growing up, that word was not a good word. That word was not a positive word. I guess he was even scared to say the word. And when you do say the word, you have to look around to see who is watching, who is listening to me. And I believe that's how we can get respect when it comes to human beings, living among each other, working among each other, going school, children among each other. Just learning to respect people's rights, talk the truth. You can't hide the truth and expect that we won't have violence. We will have violence if you don't speak the truth. We will have teenage pregnancy if you don't speak the truth. Right? We will have people hiding if we don't speak the truth. And I guess that is what is important for us. But I believe it's just more awareness. How we get people to understand who we are and what we are about, what our mission is when it comes to awareness. I could remember we did a gender live on the street some a year back, and we were just trying to find out what do people know about us. And people were saying from the time they heard the word gender, they said things like, oh, you are promoting the wrong things. You are for the LGBTQ community. No, we are for everybody. When it comes to victims, we are for everybody. And I keep saying, I guess, we need to come out more. We need to speak more about what we are when it comes to human rights, human preference, diversity. I feel like more conversation, needs to be at the forefront. people need to understand gender is not about promoting LGBTQ community. We are about promoting human rights.
Equality for all.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
In society,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's how do we get people to perceive and how to put away these old notions. And I keep saying it, if we don't fix the root of the problem, we would always have violence.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
And the root of the problem is inequality.
And I know sometimes we talk about let's do safe space for men because men don't talk. Women too, and the topic of sex too. Yes, safe space for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be more open, more vocal, more truthful. And I guess life can be so much better for us when we're honest with ourselves and with our children.
Mm-hmm. And we can only get what we want.
Yes.
What we deserve, what we desire when we're honest. And I just have two side notes, which is one, as you talk about safe spaces for men, and we're going to get there on International Men's Day, but those safe spaces have to be monitored and productive because the safe spaces for men for inequality to be promoted further. And when you were talking about, church and inequality and gender being a space that promotes equality for all, when I was in church Sunday, I didn't hear all of the priest's homily or sermon, but one thing I did hear him mention was, or ask was, who are we to judge? And I just thought it was so interesting. I know that Anglican church, what are they called? Episcopalians, I think. I think so. A lot of churches are becoming a lot more accepting and open to people of all identities because they realize at everybody's core is a human being deserving and desirous of love and care and community and all of those things. So I am also curious to see what our sometimes Christian society will do when they discover churches themselves and I mean the administration, the leaders of the church moving to promote embracing everybody. That'll be an interesting dynamic. Anyways, that was just a very unrelated side note that I thought that I would throw there now, as we go into international.
But it was interesting, what you said about the priest saying, who are we to judge?
Yeah.
And that's it right there.
Yeah, and I mean that's his way of putting it. I don't put it like that because I don't. Who are we to judge? Comes from a place of there is something that exists in scripture that says something different about this, or there are ideas that say something different. I don't come from that place. I just come from everybody's with everyone. Do everyone as you said. We do taste. Go after your heart's desires once it's consensual, once you
don't hurt people.
Free from once you don't hurt people or yourself in the process. Correct. All of us, we only have one life to live, and that life, anyways. But I know sometimes though, when we get into conversations about anyone who is not straight or anyone who is not cisgender or anyone who is not a man, that is all people hear. So they will not hear anything else that we say in the conversation. So I want to bring us back to our topic tonight and ask my final question. Or did I don't even know if I mentioned this. Maybe it's a surprise question. But a huge part of International Women's Day is also for men and boys to recognize and celebrate, acknowledge women's achievements. Plus, a lot of people make pledges and things like that on International Women's Day around what they will do to help to accelerate progress and things like that. How do you think men and boys are, I don't know if maybe from your department, how men and boys are involved or can be involved in promoting positive attitudes? Or you could say it as a message to men and boys listening for this International Women's Day. How can they be involved in promoting positive attitudes towards women's sexual health and rights and women in general?
we spoke about before a patriarchal world. So I guess that, women are allowed to celebrate. Women are recognized in different fields. Well, let me be specific. Might be recognized in church, at work, and your boss is a male. Um, in different areas. For sure, I know. When women say, "Oh, I was awarded this year," I know their significant others might say, "Ma'am, congratulations." So even though we think we don't see it, I know it does happen. Um, Even our children, even our little male children, "Oh, ma'am, mommy get an award." So it is happening, but I guess the eyes and the expectation that we know that okay, maybe we don't get it that much from the male side, but I believe that yes, women are recognized by men as well. Um, Maybe just we need a little bit more support from the men.
Yeah. Oh
We
yeah. What
need,
advice? Yeah.
yes, a little bit more push, a little bit more support, because I believe that we are the backbone for men. We push them and we encourage them to be ambitious as well. So I guess in turn, we would want them as well, to treat us the same way, push us, be ambitious, encourage us, just love us, for who we are. For sometimes maybe even taking the lead, and a lot of things are 80% of our lives. So I do believe that men do congratulate us, men do celebrate with us as well. Um,
They can do maybe a little bit more.
just a little bit more.
Yeah. I would also
Mhm.
add that it's not a lot of so a lot of times you get a lot of, I guess, platitudes, a lot of
Mhm.
performativity, and not to be on that side of things, but it's not a day to grandstand, and it's not supposed to be like you treat women terribly 364 days of the years and if the year, and then this day, or maybe 363 excluding or 362 excluding Valentine's
Valentine's
Day
Day.
and Mother's Day. It is one of those heightened or whatever moments, but it's a moment that should guide your behavior for the rest of
Mhm.
the year, right? So it's about celebrating women's achievements, celebrate the achievements of the women in your lives, because you talked about unpaid labor. The women in your lives do a lot of work.
Mhm.
So recognizing
Mhm.
them, especially, we know that every woman will not, get an award necessarily. So how do we acknowledge and celebrate, value, compensate the work that the everyday woman is doing to keep our societies going? Because everybody is contributing to keeping
Correct.
our society going. So don't grandstand, don't
Mhm.
hijack the day. Celebrate the women who are awarded and the women who are not awarded. And yeah, read up on International Women's Day,
Mhm.
see what tips and advice and guidance they provide for people who are interested in
Just wear
participating.
the color. Just wear
Yeah,
a purple, a green, or a white
in
piece,
solidarity.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to say yes, we see you, we
We
hear
see
you.
you. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And we love you.
And we love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Okay. Any final words? Any other activities that you want to plug from the department? It's okay if not. But yeah, what do you want to leave listeners with
Um.
tonight?
Well, I just want to say that I am excited to see our women taking a step forward. Sometimes we see that they struggle a lot, um, and at the end of it all, they become successful women. Um, I want to toot my own horn
Toot toot.
Right. Because I grew up and I grew up in church, you know, I got a baby, and that was not the end of the world for me. I had an aunt who always pushed me in terms of, you can come something, you can be who you want to be, and I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be a preschool teacher because she was a preschool teacher. I wanted to have 4 children like her, but I guess when I get old, I realize nah, one, two is
Okay, I had
fine.
one.
I know, I know. That's fine for me. But I know when women look back, where they came from, man, it was a struggle to get where they are. Um, and I can say I am one of those women who came a long way. And at the end of it all, you know, it was worth it. It was worth it. So I just want to say, congratulations to our women for this year in the 5 categories. Oh, and we have 2 special awards, I'm sorry. We have a Prime Minister's Award and we have a Disability Award. It's called an Empowerment Award. So those are two also that we would highlight. So we allow disability to, select one of their women for their achievement as well. And we allow the Prime Minister to select, a woman who he think has achieved, a lot and been through a lot and deserve that recognition on that day or that month. So congratulations again to our women, our 5 women, and our 2 special women for that day. And I also want to say, follow your dreams. It doesn't matter how the road may look. It doesn't matter the hurdles. But I always realize one thing. You just have to get up. Just get up. Don't stay down. Get up. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Ask me where I come from and I'll tell you. Right? A remedial class. I went to high school in 1A4 and I'm proud to say that. And at the end of my journey, I ended up with 60 subjects. I ended up with a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree. So I can tell you the story of elevation, and I know a lot of women out there can tell you their story of elevation. So I just want to say congratulations and encourage yourself. Do not stay down. Do not stay down. Even if you have to put one foot up and put the other foot up and then put your hand up to hold on and the other hand to hold on, but just get up. Get up. Get up. And happy International Women's Day when it comes.
Thank you for those words, and thank you to our listeners for joining us tonight for another conversation, another episode of Pleasure Pulse. We have been talking about International Women's Day and women's achievements, some challenges, where we are going from here, where we think we can go from here, and then Chanel ended with some, I think, really valuable, encouraging words. So I will leave you there. I will say again, thank you for joining us. As usual, Pleasure Pulse is a safe space, where no conversation or question is too big or too small. I encourage you to reflect on this conversation, see where you fit, when it comes to International Women's Day. Tune in to the ceremony on Saturday. And yeah,
Follow our Facebook page.
follow their Facebook
Department
page.
of Gender Affairs. We have a ministry page as well.
And you have a
Ministry of-
WhatsApp channel.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are lots of ways that you can be in touch with keep abreast of what's happening in the Department of Gender Affairs. You were saying that you had another page. Sorry,
There's a
threw in-
ministry page itself.
Okay.
Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs Facebook page, and also there's a hub as well. A WhatsApp hub.
Okay. Thank you. And we want to give the how they find the hub. Just search for it. I can't remember.
I think you can look for it in WhatsApp. You just type it in WhatsApp.
Or can they
Ministry
find
of-
it on Facebook? and click from there?
Yes, I think we do
Okay.
have a YouTube. Well, I think our department have a YouTube channel as well,
Mm-hmm.
so you can find us anywhere. The ministry have a Instagram page as well. You just have to look for social development and gender affairs social development. You would find us. You would
Okay.
find us.
Okay, great. So please find them, follow up with all the questions that you have. They cover a lot of different areas at gender, from the young to the old and older. And yeah, thank you for joining us for another conversation, another episode of Pleasure Pulse. As usual, I wish you a pleasurable evening, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye.